Hello and welcome to Emergency Operations Plans. I am your instructor, Sean McKay. So let's get started. So what is an emergency operations plan? It provides a structure and a process that it organizes and utilizes to respond to initial recovery from an event. It basically allows us to have a plan in place that gives us a way of responding to events in a certain manner, in a certain way, consistently. It gives us components of the emergency operations plan and allows us to operate in a certain plane of operation and allows us to do things as we are supposed to do in a certain manner. So emergency operations plans are required by many standards and laws. These are the 6 critical elements that should be part of an emergency operations plan. So we should have communications, we should have resources and assets, safety and security, staff and responsibilities, utilities management, and patient and clinical support activities. Now, we do realize that facilities are larger and are more complex. So these are the 6 that you should have at a minimum. And we realize that you can have more depending on your facility and how big and what your operations are. Again, we should base our plan on facility-based and community-based risk assessments and using an all hazards approach. Basically, we need to look at what happens in our facility, what happens outside our facility, and what events do we need to respond to. We need to look at it across a wide span in the all hazards approach and say, okay, we need to respond to X, Y, Z, and we're going to do the best we can. We're going to train our people the best we can, and we'll be able to respond to most of everything that comes in our door. Again, an all hazard approach integrates a response and refocuses of our capacities and our capabilities. This is support preparedness for a spectrum of emergencies. And you got to realize that not every facility can respond to every type of event. So you not saying that you cannot respond to an event is okay. However, you need to have plans to get around that by saying, okay, I'm not going to be able to respond to this event, but I'm going to do this instead, such as a burn victim. Simply saying, I'm going to stabilize the victim and then ship them out to a burn center is okay. You can say that you can't do something, but you've got to realize that and you've got to put it in documentation. Again, we should address our patient population, including at-risk patients, our services provided in emergencies, continuity of operations, and including delegations of authority and succession plans. Continuity of operations is important because we've got to realize that during an emergency, even though the event is happening, the rest of the hospital is still going on. People are still getting operations done. People are still getting dialysis done. Everything else in the hospital is still happening. So we need to make sure that, we have continuity operations, not to mention that depending on the event, we need to plan to make sure that we stay in operations, and how we're going to do that. What services we can provide during an emergency. So let's say we're having a large scale hurricane. Maybe we're no longer doing elective operations or things like that. So we need to put this in our emergency operations plan. And then, of course, we need to identify the patients that require additional assistance because not everybody is, simply just going to be able to move. You need to have plans to have extra manpower to move people, such as a patient that's in ICU. Plans got to be updated and changed as people leave or positions change. Again, they got to be looked at and updated at least once a year, but they should be updated and looked at more often than that. And plans should be disseminated throughout the facility or at least on an accessible share drive. However, that said, you should also disseminated across the facility in paper form, because if the shared drive goes down or if electricity goes down, you want to still be able to have access to that emergency operations plan. All staff should have received training on the emergency operations plan. And of course, we should have drills as prescribed by law to test and evaluate the workability of the emergency operations plan. After an event or a drill, we need to evaluate the effectiveness of the emergency operations plan. And this is done through the creation of after action reports. Anything, no matter how minor, should be recorded and reported. And this is due to the fact that what may seem like an anomaly at the moment may not be. It may be something that's inherently wrong with the system and needs to be taken care of, because we know that small things can snowball into larger things. And if we don't take care of it now during a real event or during something that's more intensive, that little glitch may not work. Again, after action reports are reports of what went wrong and what went well. They are not finger pointing or person bashing reports. You're not writing that Johnny sat in the corner on his phone all day long during the operation. That's not what we're all about. This is whether that the plan, such as the operation for patient registration, worked, or supplies worked, or the transportation of patients worked, and things like that. After we compile our after action reports, we're going to have a written plan that tells us what went wrong and what didn't go wrong in a final report. And then we're going to update and change our emergency operations plan as needed. And then we're going to disseminate it, and then we're going to take care of those problems. Whether we need training, whether we need to rework the operations plan, we're going to do it. No matter what change we do, we need to let everybody know that we made those changes and update people with training. They're a living document. They got to be looked at and evaluated. Once we created, they're not just put on a shelf and never looked at again. Get operations change, people change, numbers change, laws change. Then we got to periodically look at our plan. Training, we need training, which is vitally important in emergency operations. This goes double for our emergency operations plan. We got to have people trained in emergency operations plan. People need to know what our emergency operations plan is, what their job is, and what is expected of them when it comes time to an event. If we don't train and refresh our people in emergency operations plan at the time that it's needed, it's going to fail. And again, this could be costly to the facility and staff and patients. How do we determine our emergency operations plan works? Well, we need to exercise it. We need to evaluate the effectiveness of our emergency plan. So we need to have drills, whether it's full-scale drills, those mini drills, training drills, tabletop exercises, small parts of the operation, full-scale operation, whatever we need to make sure that the plan works and that the parts work as they're supposed to, and that the training works as it's supposed to. Once they are done, we're going to evaluate them, and then we're going to take those evaluations, do our after action reports, and then we're going to adjust the emergency operations plan as we need. It's a litmus test for the level of emergency preparedness. So are we prepared to do what we say we're going to do? They're meant to deal with the events that are outside the norm of the everyday operations that the facility has. And it's a guide to response, preparedness, and command and control for personnel to follow during an event. It's that outline of what we're doing, and it's a guide of how we're going to operate, who's going to be in command, who does what, and who reports to who. Again, they're required by regulations, standards, different laws, whether it be federal, state, tribal, or local agencies that oversee your healthcare facility. And that's the last of the lecture for today. If you have any other questions, please hit me up in class.